what's up guys, it's George, and in this video here I want to respond to an email that somebody had sent to me. Woke up and I saw this email from this individual and I thought that this would make for an interesting topic, so I decided to respond to this in video format. And I'm not going to read the whole email, but I'll get to the important points and the main question that you asked me, which is, should I relapse? And first up, I want to say congratulations. I see that you said you made it 125 days quitting smoking weed. But their life isn't all sunshine and roses. As they quit smoking weed, they still have problems and stress and dramas that life's bringing them. They're still dealing with the many various different emotions that life is throwing at them. And because their life is challenging, they're wondering, should you stay on this path of sobriety, or should you go back to smoking weed? Will that be the better solution for you? Was your life better smoking weed? And will that be the better choice for you long term? I just want to read just a couple of things that you said. You said, I'm too worried that if I lose my job, I'll have to work in an office-based job, and I'm not very good around people. I get anxiety around people. I have many worries with depression and anxiety and guilt for my family. When will my mind rewire? I feel very unmotivated and unproductive, barely doing my job and barely alive. Is this supposed to be normal? Should I relapse? Well, I refer to you as John Smith, and this is what I want to say on that is that, only you can come up with what is the right decision for you. But I'm glad that you reached out to me on this because this is important, and our destiny is formed in moments of decision. So I'm going to provide some information, my thoughts, my perspective, and then you use this information to decide what the right path is for you. So I want to ask you a question. If you look at your life a year from now, will your life be better if you go back to smoking weed, waking up, smoking every day, getting high all day? Will you be able to look back on your life a year from now with pride and be like, you know what? I'm so glad I went back to smoking weed. That was the best decision ever. Waking up, smoking weed, smoking all day. Will you be able to look back on pride and, that was like the best thing that I ever did? Will your productivity and your life be enhanced because of that if you look back a year from now? Or if you stay on this path, the path of sobriety, the path of righteousness, how will you be able to look back in pride? That, wow, you know what, I did it. Regardless of all else that happened in my life, I stayed sober for a whole year. Yes, this path is challenging, but this, you were in the game. You had to deal with everything. Which path will you be able to look back on more pride and accomplishments and will make you feel better about yourself? Which path? Only you can answer for this. Just want you to think about this. But this is important, like I said, because our destiny is formed in moments of decision. So really marinate and think on this. And I know you said that you have depression and anxiety, and that's why you're considering going back to smoking weed. Well, will smoking weed and going back to smoking weed every day, is this going to solve all your life problems? Well, it may alleviate the depression and the anxiety temporarily, but that's just a crutch. Yes, this path of being sober is more challenging. It takes more brain power and more conscious effort and a lot more self-work to figure out how to go within, to develop those feel-good emotions from within. This path, yes, takes more work and is more challenging, and it's not as quick as just popping a pill or smoking or drinking something. That doesn't take much effort. It doesn't take much conscious brain power to do that. And that's why that path is so popular. But this path is challenging. It takes time. But this is the one that if you take right action and you continue to work on yourself, read the necessary books, take right action in living healthy and exercising and meditation to go within to decide to figure out how to cope with anxiety and depression. This is going to make you stronger. It's going to improve your level of emotional maturity, and it's going to make you stronger physically and spiritual maturity. This is the one that long term is going to help you to be able to cope and deal with the many various different pressures and things that life throws at us. where if we're always using a crutch, when life gets tough, we go to taking pills, smoking, drinking, then that's just a crutch. And I said that, one of the biggest things that holds us back in life from reaching our true potential is those bad habits, is those crutches, is those weaknesses. And so one thing that I want to mention, and I want you to think about is to remember why you quit smoking weed in the first place. Seriously, I mean, there's a reason why you quit smoking weed to begin with, and I don't know what those reasons are, but 125 days ago, there were reasons why you decided to stop smoking weed. And I want you to think about these. It's maybe you were depressed. Maybe you found you were very your self-esteem was down. Maybe you have low energy. I'm sure a factor of multiple different reasons, but there was a reason why. And see, humans are creatures of amnesia. So over time, we tend to forget, and we can forget about the misery that being a pothead brought to us. And this is why I'm a big one on keeping a journal. Because this way you can go back and you can reflect. Even if you've kind of started to forgotten about it and you think, maybe my life would be better off going back to smoking weed. That, if you have a journal, then you can reference that and realize, okay, that wasn't the key. I see that, I lost happiness down this path. And, you don't want to go looking for happiness in the same place that you lost it. That's insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So remember why you quit smoking weed to begin with. Now, you mentioned about feeling unmotivated and unproductive. Well, this is one of the most common things that I hear from people when they quit smoking weed, that their level of productivity increases, goes through the roof. I was just talking with somebody earlier today on a coaching call just a few hours ago, and they were mentioning how it's crazy that they know when they quit smoking weed, their level of productivity goes through the roof. And then when they go back to smoking weed, their productivity and energy and motivation goes down the tube. But they relapse, and it's like this vicious cycle, which I get it. I've been there, totally relatable. But this is the thing. When everybody, I hear this across the board, pretty much everybody becomes more productive when they quit smoking weed. So is smoking weed going to help you to become more productive? Well, unless you're one of those 0.01% that can smoke weed and your brain lights up and you're more productive and energetic, but most likely that's not you. Or else you wouldn't be writing this email, having this soul searching. You probably wouldn't have quit weed to begin with. So, will smoking weed, is that going to make you more motivated and more productive? I think we all know the answer to that. You ask about when will my mind rewire? Well, your mind is rewiring. This is a process, and this is something you got to be patient with. And this is why self-work is our brain is always wiring and rewired, always. And this is why it's so important to have strong rituals and to have good habits. Because just because you're sober, it doesn't mean that all your life problems are going to be solved. You may adopt a whole bunch of other bad habits in place of smoking weed. That happens all the time. People quit one addiction just to pick up another. And this is why when you get sober, this is when the real work begins. This is when you really got to use that extra brain power and energy to start working on those daily habits and creating new rituals for yourself, a new morning process. And because that's how your brain really rewired. But you got to be patient with your mind. It takes time to rewire the brain and to learn how to generate those feel-good emotions from within. And one thing that I want to say about, you said you're barely alive, barely doing your job, unmotivated. Is this normal? Well, this is something that I want to share. Is that I've coached hundreds of people for years, and and one of the things that I've noticed amongst people that are very energetic and very excited about life and motivated is that they tend to have goals that they're working towards. And on the other hand, one of the most common things that I notice amongst people that are unmotivated, complaining about energy, these types of individuals typically don't have goals. This is just something that I've noticed. When you have goals, they can tend to bring on a life of their own, and they can start to, the universe starts to throw energy into your life. Life becomes more exciting when you have goals and when you have things that you're working towards. And that's why I always recommend when I'm coaching with people to, let's re-examine their goals and let's start creating even some new goals, things that we're working towards. Because all of a sudden these goals start to take on a life of their own. And all of a sudden these will, these goals will start to give you energy and discipline you didn't even know you had. That's why if you ever sign up for like a 5K or 10K race or something like that, even if it's way on the calendar, all of a sudden you may find yourself, more dedicated to working out, taking your exercise more seriously. Because all of a sudden that goal starts to take on a life of its own. And so that's why I'm a big one on goals, always having goals that you're working towards, because it just makes life more enjoyable, makes life more interesting. And like I was saying, one of the most common things that I notice amongst people that are, low motivation, low energy, kind of depressed, is that they typically don't have goals that they're working towards. So you may have no goals, so take some time to re-examine your goals, create some new goals. Your old goals, maybe, dust them off, revisit them so that they're more achievable and more doable in the mind, and start creating some smaller goals, chunking them down, things that your mind feels like you can actually achieve, and then start working towards those goals. And watch as your life starts to become more interesting, and that as it starts to pour more energy and motivation into your life. So I hope this helps. And I hope that this makes sense. Again, congratulations on hitting 125 days. Just as a reminder, the question that I asked you, I said, will your life be better because of going back to smoking weed? Or will, and also to consider, what are the reasons why you quit smoking weed eventually? Really do some soul searching and think about that. Because we don't want to go back seeking happiness in the same place that we lost it. All right, so I hope this message helps. If any of you guys ever have a question that you really want to ask me, feel free to send me an email. I have my email contact info in the description of the videos. I'm getting more and more emails by the day, so I can't respond. I won't always be able to respond to every email and do a video response to every topic that I get, but send them my way, and to the best of my ability, I'll try to respond to as many as I can. And if it's something that I feel can relate to a lot of other people, then I may do a video on it as well. So I hope you guys are all doing great. Let's make it a great day, a great week, a great month, a great year. Let's make it a great life. See ya.